Welcome back, everybody. Another quick update from us. We published an interesting report today. Of course, Bitcoin is bouncing, but everybody's asking how long is this bounce going to last? Where are we going to fade this rally? And then, where are we going to buy for the next cycle? Of course, if you like those videos, let us know. Leave a comment below. Hit the smash like button, and let's go through some charts here. Of course, this bounce was inevitable. We have seen, of course, this in one of the reports we published last week. We also made a previous video about this. It was really that the market was oversold. Our greed and fear index was also reaching extreme levels. CoinDesk wrote a story about this on Saturday, so that was quite timely. But the question is, of course, how far can we rally this time? Bitcoin entered the bear market really at 111,500. This was really when one of the key signals was triggered. We have already, of course, reported about this, many times. This was our so-called ice wall that finally broke. We bounced around a little bit, but at one point we were almost 30,000 points below it. Right now we are around 20,000 points below this level because these moving average that we're looking at is also, of course, declining over time. But nevertheless, if anybody would have followed this signal, it would have saved them a lot of money. And of course, this money is important to really re-enter the market at a later point. Bitcoin also entered the bear market based on our trend signal at around 111,700. This is a signal, and this is a model we have been actually using for many years. I think, of course, not every signal will be successful, but usually when it's wrong, it gets stopped out very quickly, and it helps us to really catch these larger waves as we're seeing right now, because it gave us more confidence that this rally is really nearing an end, and of course the downturn was really inevitable. On the other hand, if Bitcoin, of course, rallies above the trend signal, which is 106,000 right now, that would be a new bullish trend, but I think it's going to be miles away, and it's going to be very difficult to rally above this level. The bounce was inevitable simply because Bitcoin was oversold. We have reported about this. We have written about it. Every time Bitcoin hits the 35 level, and bounce is likely, but Bitcoin never really reached this 80% overbought level, which is a sign actually that this bull market was relatively weak since the summer. And the door really to the downside was really opening up because of the technicals and the market structure really. The question really now is, do we have enough technical systems and signals in place for a sustainable rebound, or are we going to run into some technical overhand resistance very quickly? Our own proprietary greed and fear index has been bearish. We have shown this index several times over the last couple of days because it's so timely, and we don't really get a lot of those 20-day moving average of this indicator that are really near zero or just below 10%, which is usually a contrarian buy signal. Usually this would mean Bitcoin has a sustainable move higher now, but the way how the market is structured, the way how we broke certain on-chain metrics, I think makes it very difficult to really bet on a sustainable uptrend here. And that is because Bitcoin's average cost basis of active supply has actually decreased over time. So the actual level has increased now to 82,000. It's really, people have been actively trading a lot of the coins. Therefore, this true mean has increased. And I think every time, of course, we go below this level, there's a lot of pain because more or less the overall market is in loss. And that's, of course, very painful for people to really throw a lot more money into the Bitcoin market. And historically, we actually have traded a fair bit amount below this true mean. And I think that's why it makes it very, very difficult right now. And I think the people who really know the crypto market and focus on the on-chain data are more cautious at this level and don't look at this level necessarily as a support, even it provided kind of support level last Friday. But nevertheless, there are some other factors that are probably more important right now. Of course, one of the indicators we look at is a 200-week moving average. Historically, that has usually supported very good levels for long-term buy levels. Right now this this moving average is at 57,000. Of course, it's rising over time. By year end next year, it will be at 68,000. So we're getting to the 70,000 level where we think this is actually pretty good support. I mean, of course, it's still materially lower than where we currently are, but nevertheless, I think it is kind of like a signal that we're monitoring. So would we be buying the market right here, right now? I think it really depends because we think the market is going to run into resistance level at at the latest at 92,000, and if not at 100, 101,000. We don't think we're going to climb materially above it. We don't think the Fed might be as dovish as people are hoping, and I think that makes it very difficult right now to even trade from the long side. But there are some other structures, better risk reward trades that we wrote about in the report that makes a lot more sense for people to put on those trades, and they gonna, I think, generate some pretty good yield and carry into year end really. So it's not necessarily about the directional trade, it's more really structuring a trade quite smartly here. Of course, the Bitcoin skew and implied volatility, they have materially improved over the last 24 hours. It was our message from yesterday, and also in yesterday's kickoff report, where we indicated what is our favorite trade, how people should trade really this rebound. So it's not necessarily directional trade. We are not YOLOing in here into Bitcoin. We're just thinking about what is really a smart trade, how we can make some money, really a good risk reward trade into year end. And that's really how we trade Bitcoin. We wrote about it in the report where we gave specific levels where people should buy or sell certain assets that we like, and how people should structure the trade. And that's, I think, in the report. So if you're interested, have a look at the report. The link is below if you have not read it, but let us know what you think about the trade. So if you like this video, let us know, leave a comment, and see you next time.